का ब्लड आ रहा, ब्लड नीचे से ब्लड आ रहा, ब्लड चाहिए, दे दो.
Hundreds of passengers are stranded at airport and there is no any emergency humanitarian plan. When crisis strikes, we find that everything goes like failure. It is a crisis which was building already. Mumbai and Delhi airport, you should know that they are operating beyond their capacity. One more new crisis, and that crisis is related to airlines crisis. At airports, you should know that hundreds of passengers are stranded at airport and there is no any emergency humanitarian plan either by government of India or by airport authority or by the airlines. You can imagine that we may claim ourselves so many things, but when crisis strikes, we find that everything goes like failure. Everything seems to be unplanned. Everything seems to be, let's say, inadequate. And then passengers have their own problems. You can imagine that when they are stranded at airport for, let's say, 24 hours, 48 hours without any help. So what would be their condition? You can imagine by the fact that one parent just wanted to have sanitary pad for his daughter and that was also even not available. And he was just crying like anything at airport. If you see in this video the scenario, let's say that it can be like heart-rending. You can consider that how you can feel that we can be reduced to, human can be reduced to such helplessness.
मेरा बेटी का ब्लड आ रहा, ब्लड नीचे से ब्लड आ रहा, ब्लड चाहिए, दे दो.
सर हम ऐसा नहीं कर सकते.
क्यों नहीं कर सकता? क्यों नहीं कर सकता? क्यों नहीं कर सकता? मेरे को प्यार चाहिए अभी. स्टे फ्री दे दो प्यार.
And that's also at airport. Then the question is why it has happened. So you should know that it has not happened. Nothing happens in a day. It is not a sudden crisis. It is a crisis which was building already. You can consider that. First, regulations have not been enforced by DGCA, you can say, Director General of Civil Aviation, and it brought a new notification that is related to flight duty time limitations. The flight duty time limitations, you can say, the new rule for the airlines to be followed, especially for pilot, their rest time, the other things. Already you know that the airlines are working on very stressed situation that they don't have spare cabin crew, pilots, aircrafts. They don't have any spare, you can say. It means that they are operating beyond their capacity. And Mumbai and Delhi airport, you should know that they are operating beyond their capacity, called 110 to 120% of their capacity. It means that they are overstressed. And then when, let's say, something happens, even a slightest thing happens, that results into system collapse. And that's why you need to have a system in place. Regulators should be able to regulate effectively. You should know that. It is also called regulatory capture. When a regulator is not able to enforce and an airline has its own monopoly, do you think that it is possible in Europe and Western countries that an airlines can behave like that? Not at all. Because European Union has Civil Aviation Charter. Clarity, consumer policy you can consider, transparency in its scheduling you can consider, and they will protect their consumer rights. And that is how we need to follow in our country, that there should be enforcement of regulation, there should be transparency in the scheduling of the airlines, there should be civil aviation charter, you can say, for the flights, etc., and there should be also consumer participation, passengers participation in the process to bring more transparency. At the same time, in the end, there should also be capping of highest fare. Certainly, it should not be 40,000 to 1 lakh.